I'm always excited whenever I'm recording an episode. Yes. Hi guys, welcome to another episode of Tuesday's Conversations. I am excited. I got a new headband. Said it's fine. So I wait. Yes, welcome. And today it's a video podcast. Who has missed my face? I've missed seeing my face too. I'm sure you have. And I have a guest with me. He's an amazing person because he came all the way from Abeokuta for this episode. Hi Toby, please go ahead and introduce
Right,
yourself.
my name is Tobi Samuel. Thank you. I'm a content writer, content marketing specialist.
I met Toby we went to school together, and it's interesting how he comes to know about things. I like to ask first of all, how do you get to know things? Because I know you know a lot of things.
Yeah.
How do you get the knowledge that you get?
I'm a curious person.
Okay.
I think that just sums it up. If I see something that I don't know before, I would go and find out about it.
Was like, you know, there's this question people always ask, like, what are top 5 things that they wake you up from sleep you can talk about?
A lot. The list is long.
Okay.
My work, content writing.
Definitely.
I think I can talk about that all day. History, a little bit.
And you did not do anything in history in school?
Nah. I just love talking about history.
Interesting.
Things related to society in general.
Yes, and that's why we're here.
I love talking about that as well. Things related to society, religion, because I'm a Christian, so.
Really?
You know.
I would never have.
I don't like to argue about it. So if it's an argument, I'll keep quiet.
Yeah,
but if it's to enlighten, to educate, I'm good with that.
Okay.
What else? Relationship.
Well, you have experience,
so that as well.
So that's good, and we are here to talk about one of those things, which is society. So the topic of our episode today is of gender wars and the danger of a single side story. So first question, I know, right? Very, very interesting topic. I have a personal rule that I don't engage in gender wars. Have you engaged in gender wars, like conversations? Okay. And Toby's a Twitter person,
so as a Twitter person, you have no choice. You might not engage actively, which I try not to do most of the time. Okay. But as a spectator, one way or the other, you're part of the war. You with your retweets, with your likes, even if you don't like to tweet yourself.
Right. That's actually some form of engagement.
So you're still engaging with it one way or the other. I also a lot of times, if I don't like misinformation, so a lot of times I step in to correct factual errors.
Of course.
If someone is making a blanket statement that is not just accurate, I like to step in and just say, I'll just say, okay, I don't think this is correct. And then if the person asks for clarification, I might just explain a few.
And I know you definitely
exactly. But if the person is like combative and it's just I don't like the back and forth because it's not going to end with anything. So you have your opinion fixed already and you're not going to listen to me. So even if I'm coming with a factual, okay, this is a factual correction and I'm not even involved in. I don't have any
I have no stake in whatever
you're fighting about. Yes. I just think that you've made an error, you said something wrong, and I need to correct it. If I present that fact and you're still okay, I'll just keep quiet and just leave it like that.
Because I have to ask, most times when or the few times when I've had to engage in gender wars, I realized that it never ends well. Like there's no end.
There's no end. Yeah, you're not achieving anything.
Exactly.
With the whole conversation, a lot of times everybody are fixed in their ways. You have what you believe already. So even when the facts are staring you in the face, you don't just want to ignore it and just okay. Even when you are cornered and you don't have, you still double down.
Double down and say
like, this thing is still, you're wrong. Like this thing, it's clear that you're wrong. Just admit it but because it's all about the war for you.
Exactly. Yes. That's what I was going to ask. How did it end? Like all the ones you've been in, has anyone ever ended in such a way that you gained a new knowledge, or there was some enlightenment, or like the other party was like, okay, I can now see things from your point of view?
I think most of the times the ones have yielded positive fruits. Conversations I had with people personally, and
not
of
necessarily
Twitter.
online.
Twitter is constrained. I think we're even lucky now with the Elon things that you can do a long thread.
Yes.
And even
yes,
without,
yes.
you have to be on premium.
That's what I was just going to ask. Only people
on premium that can do
I
that.
used to wonder.
So because of that, the character limit makes it difficult for you to just make your point, and not
That's
you don't have time to start. Okay,
Can you send VNs on Twitter?
no, you can't. You can't. So because of that, it's just I think there's a premium. I don't know if it's still in DM, not in
it's not
in your thread. So because of that, it's difficult for you to explain your points. But I've had conversations with people that had we had contrary opinion initially, and then we sat down and we talked, and then at the end of that conversation, but these are lengthy conversations. We're talking 1 hour, and we're just talking about at the end of those kind of conversations, you might not come to the same point, but you learn some things about the other person, the perspective. Okay, this is what this person is saying. But if you want to use Twitter, I've had conversations that started on Twitter,
and then you guys
just move
somewhere.
to just talk on WhatsApp. And these are people I know personally. I don't engage with strangers on because I know that we are not going to get anywhere with it. But I've had started on Twitter and the person just talk in the DM, and then we talked off WhatsApp. I have on WhatsApp. I have your number. We just chat, and then we can talk at length. You can send voice notes. I send long voice notes, so it's easy for.
Please, I have been a recipient.
I send long voice notes, so it's easy for.
What's the longest voice note you sent?
I think I've done 8 minutes. I think that's the maximum I've sent. 8 minutes.
It's a lie. You've done more than 8 minutes.
I've done more than
that. You've done more than 8 minutes.
I can send a series. I can send continuously.
You've sent me VNs of like 12 to 14 minutes.
I can talk. I can send voice notes. I was excited when WhatsApp added the voice note feature to the status, but then I think most people don't like it. So most people don't like it.
So I posted on my WhatsApp status yesterday that I'm a very shy person. And people were edging my DM like, Then you know that there's this a meme going around of this guy that his eyes wide like this.
Yeah.
And I was getting that right. And it's very interesting. As much as I love sending voice notes, right? Because I feel like it's so easy. I can talk. I can pass the message across. Yeah. I don't know how to do voice notes on status.
On status, yeah.
I don't shy. Like I'm a very shy person.
I think a lot of people don't like to listen
my voice.
So a lot of people don't like to listen to. So
and I don't listen to.
Yeah, I don't listen to. I don't listen. So it's just not serving the purpose. But at least you can chat in the DM and talk at length and just clarify. Okay, this is what I mean. So we don't misunderstand each other.
Yes.
One of the things with gender wars is that even if you're well-meaning, there is a possibility that your point will come across as wrong, and you just can't explain yourself.
Do you think there can ever be an end to gender wars? Because I can tell you that at least let me say 7.5 out of 10 of the conversations that I had daily on Twitter and on many social media platforms has to do with gender, one way or the other.
They're colored with gender, one way or the other.
Right. Do you think they can ever do you think we would ever get to a point where men would be like, okay, I can see what the women have been talking about, and the woman would be like, oh, I can see what the men have been talking about?
Yeah. I think it's very unlikely.
Okay.
It's not impossible, but I think it's very unlikely. And the reason why I think it's very unlikely is most of the conversations that people have, I think we lack an historical context to how this whole gender thing came about.
Okay.
We lack an historical context.
Historical context in what?
I think that we are fighting wars that we did not start.
Definitely.
This generation did not start patriarchy. This generation did not start feminism.
Definitely.
And so because we don't know the origin of these wars, we also because of the kind of generation that we have, people don't really care so much about how did this start.
Right.
So we just want to pass our point. And that's the point. That's the most important thing that people are missing, because I don't think that patriarchy started, and I might be crucified for this, but I don't think that patriarchy started with prejudice.
I agree with that.
It was not meant to subjugate women from the very beginning.
Also, to a very good extent, agree with that.
But people that, if we just look at it from the surface without checking the historical context, if we just look at patriarchy now and how it works now, it is possible that you'd get the impression that, at some point, men just had a big meeting, a big conference somewhere,
Someone
and they
decided
decided
that they were
that
going to
they are
subjugate
going to
all women.
subjugate all women. Like that is, but it has an origin. It started somewhere, and that lack of historical context on both sides is the reason why those wars are prolonging this much. If you know that, the progression of society is what allowed patriarchy to come to be, you would understand it better. If you know that the reason why, at some point in history, if we go all the way back to when men were, men, I mean men and women, when we were operating on an hunter-gatherer society, at that point, it just made sense that women would be in the home, and then the stronger gender would go out and hunt.
Definitely.
They were living in perilous times. It wasn't like now.
Perilous.
Like, it was very, very difficult times.
Perilous is a
They
good
had
word.
to face they had to face dangers. And then
Like, it was survival of the
fittest. And in that era, the gender that was weaker, and in quotes now, when I say weaker, I mean physical strength.
Thank you for putting it in quotes.
I mean physical strength, yeah. And gender that had less physical strength. And I always tell people when I talk about this that biologically women are disadvantaged.
Yes, thank you. And I used to say
it's not and if you have interacted with a woman, fortunately I'm married, so I can say this for sure. A woman's productive day, like perfectly fine day that she's not feeling anything funny, probably 3 or 4 days in an entire month.
God bless you for saying
if you are not battling with period is coming, the ovulation symptoms, all of those things are just, some people have it harder than others, and you just, the productive days that you have that you're not feeling anything at all, like perfectly nothing, fine,
your whole body is fine,
perfectly fine, is probably 3-4 days in an entire month. So because of that, you cannot have that kind of person going out to forage for food, to go and hunt. And so it made sense that the man would go out. And then as society evolved, we evolved into a society where there were wars. Men would go to war and women would stay back at home. It just made sense at the time.
And then I think another thing to also consider was the issue of procreation.
Yeah.
Right? Considering that it is the woman who is going to have to
carry the child, take care of the child for a few years.
Right. And that whole process can be very, again, differs on people, but it can be very demanding in certain. Some people have like really easy pregnancies. Some do not. Some have to be like on bed rest. You cannot expect someone who's carrying like a 6-month pregnancy to be going to war.
So that made it necessary to have a system to protect women and children. And so it did not evolve from trying to subjugate women. But as society evolved, we got to a point where both the men and women could go out. Both the men and women could work. Also, it evolved to a point, and that's the thing with every movement, there is a tendency for abuse.
Yes.
It evolved to a point where it became abused. The gender that was being protected was not supposed to be lesser than the one that is protecting it. That was not the plan. The fact that you're protected does not mean that you should not have rights. But because women were categorized with children, they will say women and children first. And because of that, at some point, children, the same way children didn't have rights, the women did not have rights too. They were not allowed to vote. They were not allowed to do all of those. They were not allowed to drive. And societies that still operate on that rule still run that way. But so I always say that at some point patriarchy outlived its purpose.
Its initial purpose.
And it had to evolve into something else. It needed to change. But the in which it changed is the main reason why there's a war today is because we've not been able to establish a basis for that change. How should our society evolve? What system should we run now that we are saying that patriarchy has to go? Right.
I was about to ask something and I have really forgotten it, but it basically has to do with, do you think I've forgotten my question now. But I like the point that you made about how that patriarchy has to evolve.
Yeah.
Right. There is, most times when we talk about patriarchy, most people come with the mindset of, there is someone intentionally wanting to subjugate. And while in some cases there are people that do that, there is also the case of influence or bringing what you meet in the society and what you think ought to be in the society. right? If you are brought up in a family and a home, and I think I spoke a bit about this on the last episode I did, where I was talking about family, smallest things of a society. If you are brought up in a family and a home where you constantly see your father abusing your mother, you can grow up and then you don't get to have another kind of knowledge aside from that, right? You can grow up thinking that that is how we ought to be. Right, that is the norm. So I think that to some extent, when we talk about patriarchy, most times people just talk about patriarchy as something
big system,
big. But if you bring it down to the nitty gritty of things, patriarchy is in the way we relate to each other. It's in the way
it's in the mindset.
It's in the mindset. That's ticket. It's in the mindset that people have towards a particular gender. Right.
I think that's like the major thing with patriarchy right now. I was having a conversation with somebody recently, and I mentioned that um, as in current Nigerian society, as a young person in Nigeria, living in Nigeria presently, we cannot say that women are held back. And I say this carefully. And what do I mean? On a systemic level, there was a time where women were not allowed to go to school. There was a time when women were not allowed to hold certain jobs. So, but from a systemic level, we have access to the same education, right? We go to the same schools, we get the same degrees. I as a man don't have more opportunities than women do from a systemic level.
I already have something.
So
So from a systemic level, right, it ought to be is somewhat balanced.
Yes.
But from a cultural and
and that's where I was going. That, and when we talk about culture and religion, is mindset. It is not society. It is people. It is people that makes up society eventually. But okay, for instance, now, if you as a woman say you want to run for president, nobody will say don't run.
But they will not vote for me.
They will know. Like they would even say they will not vote. But so the system that allows a woman to run for president is there. The structure is there that allows a woman to run for president. But the mindset that holds women back from achieving those things is not fixed. And that's why a lot of the times when feminism now, a lot of the solution that are being implemented to make women get ahead is not addressing the core of the problem. And the result of that is that solving the problem creates a different problem. So when we say that women don't get justice, the system would now evolve in some places to give women a higher level of justice because we want women to get justice. So there's this movement that believe a woman, no matter what a woman says, just believe her first. That's what led to a situation where there was, in 2020, for instance, there was this move on Twitter where there was this rape accusation just flying all around. Some of them were false, but as a man, if you get accused, the punishment is instant because they believe that the woman is right. Because historically we believe that women were not getting justice. So that women will get justice, want to give them just believe all women do, and
that's going to
creates a problem eventually, and that's the problem. The solution, another solution that feminism brings forward is give women more opportunities. So let's have empowerment programs for women. Let's have all of these. And the excuse is that women have been held back for a long time and they need time to catch up. That kind of, which to an extent makes sense. But it creates a problem where some men, because their mentality have not been addressed, they think that things like that are unfair to men. And so instead of ending the war, it creates more problem.
So it's an equality of opportunities versus equality of conditions.
So because of that mental, and the origin is just there is a mentality problem that some people have, both men and women. What is really holding women back is this mentality, is the fact that you think a woman cannot be president, a woman will not make a good leader, women leaders are terrible. it's mentality. It's a mindset. Yeah. So it's the I think that it would be better if efforts are channeled more towards education and awareness. When you let people know that a woman is not any less than a man, even in religious cycle, it's one of those things that some churches will still tell you that women cannot hold leadership position in the church. I was having a conversation with somebody. I think it was my parents. We're having was a morning devotion kind of thing, and then we're reading Genesis, and I pointed out that the Bible did not say that a man is better than a woman. There is nowhere in the Bible. The only place that they point to is that in Genesis 3 during the fall, when God said, "Because of what you have done, your affection will draw towards your husband, and he will rule over you." It's your husband, not that all men are better than women. But the origin, so when you allow mentalities like that fester, a lot of people naturally think that all men are better than all women.
And that that mentality, like if you I don't know, sometimes when I read things and I wonder what how people think and if people think the way I think. That mentality also goes down to male child versus male child.
Yes, yes, yes.
Because I'm currently reading a book. I'm not done reading the book because I'm really taking my time with that book.
Yeah.
My title is Tomorrow I Become a Woman. And there was a particular scene in the book where the main character was in church and people and in their church they were organizing all these seminars for women, married women, women that want to give birth. And then this woman literally came out apparently to give a testimony, right? Talking about how God has removed her shame. What was her shame? Her three daughters. That she has finally had this. And the main character we were reading because we are reading from her point of view, and then she was like she could not clap or she could because she was like she does not think it's okay.
It's okay to make that kind of testimony and call your children shame. Yeah. Yeah. So I think it's those kind of mentality. Everybody thinks there's this, even if you're not demonstrating it actively, you just think that you're better than a woman.
Right.
Like you think, and I always say this, that I know a lot of women that can beat me, like in a physical fight. So I, as a man, know that I'm not stronger than all women. It's the same thing with the mind too. I know a lot of women that are smarter than me. I might be very smart, but I'm not smarter than all women. I might be smarter than some women, the same way I'm smarter than some men.
Exactly.
So it doesn't make me any better. And it doesn't mean that the fact that I admit that does not make me less of a man. It doesn't make me, there's this, how did you allow a man beat you? How did you allow a woman beat you? Like,
I still put it about this.
it's still, it doesn't make sense that you think that way. So, and the origin of it, is just,
you're doing more harm to those guys.
Exactly. Than to the good. Because at the end of the day, you put yourself under pressure as a man. Exactly. You think that
the moment a woman does something better than you, then you are less of a man.
No. So the problem and the most of the problems that is the women problem generally today is not primarily a systemic problem. It is a mentality problem.
Yeah.
Yes, people make up systems, and that's how it starts. That's where it ends up. When you now put those people with bad mentality, when they are police officers, when a woman now comes to report rape case to them, they treat it with that mindset. Because even though the law allows the woman to get justice, if she gets to court, there's still an hindrance of getting that. So that mindset should be the primary thing. So if we really want to say that, okay, no, the origin of this is can gender wars end, I think that we have to get to a point where you have to realize that all of these things that we are doing is just putting bandage on the problem. Right. We're not solving it. There is the origin of the problem is the fact that there's a mentality problem that we need to address.
I like that I've never said anything to you and you said exactly what because and I was talking about the conversation I had with someone, what we're having this conversation on Kamala being the president.
Yes.
For me, it was not a matter of, and I think I also mentioned this because in the last episode, was it last episode or 2 episodes ago, I had played a voice note of a conversation I had with someone about this. And my point again was on the fact that I'm not going to say that simply because someone is a woman, then and because I want women to be in positions of authority, and I'm just going to put them there.
Put them there.
You have to be competent enough to be in that position.
Yeah.
Right. But the moment you start to have a mindset that simply because somebody
Is a woman,
they cannot do XYZ, or there's a cap to what they can do.
Yeah.
That's the mentality.
That's the problem. That's the origin that's the origin of every form of abuse against women. That's the origin of everything. The fact that you think that a man is better than a woman, the fact that you think that they should be treated differently, we are different.
Definitely.
We have to acknowledge
our
differences. And I think that to a large extent, patriarchy acknowledges the difference. Mm-hmm. The problem is just the abuse that comes in with it. So when you know that, yes, like I said, women are disadvantaged biologically, but a biological disadvantage does not equate to one being better than the other. Right? That is the mentality that we really need to look at as a society, and look at how we can start to address those things. When you don't treat your children differently from the very young age, right? You don't, because a young child, a 2-year-old boy and a 2-year-old girl, they're virtually the same. One is not stronger than the other one. So with that, you don't give them separate responsibilities. Okay, you be in the kitchen, you go and wash the car. You don't need to do that. Let both of them do. Yes, you play to their strengths, but you have to recognize the fact that this person's strength, there are some jobs that are not, the guy's strength does not mean that I cannot wash plates. Doesn't mean that I cannot sweep the floor. Things like that. So
thank you. I'm saying thank you because you said a lot of things that were on my mind without necessarily me having to say anything to you. Right. Mm-hmm. So that's what I'm saying. Thank you. Well, we quickly have to move on because time is going. Right. My next question is going to be: how important would you say gender wars have been in terms of telling the story of each gender?
Okay. Yeah, I think that gender wars are important. I'm not a big fan of them. I think that we are doing too much of it, but I think they're important. I mentioned something earlier about patriarchy evolving. If if those wars didn't happen, patriarchy would not evolve.
Yes. The thing about the thing about those words is they open the line up for certain conversations.
Exactly. Because we need to have those conversations. We need to be open about those conversations. We need to allow people say their minds. It's also not very good when you stifle one side of the conversation and let one narrative go too far.
Right. There's this thing Yoruba people used to say, if something about how that the hunter is always right until the lion comes.
Yes, yeah. That's the side of the story. Because if women say their own side of the story, we understand that historically now women have been disadvantaged and all of that. But if I, as a 24th century guy, tell my own side of story, I would say that I have not received any benefits from being a man. I've not received any opportunity, any special treatment for being a man. My ancestors might have, and they most definitely did. But as a young man growing up today, I did not receive any special treatment for being a man. There are some people that would. There are some people that would.
Ask you one question, I'm like, okay, let's not go there. I was going to ask you, would you like to be born as a woman?
Well, I don't want to come at all. I don't want to come back again at all. That's the reality. I don't want to come back again at all. This one life is stressful enough. I think life of a woman is stressful too. It's very stressful. I think you guys go through a lot.
Thank you.
But men go through a lot too. Everybody exactly. So as a young person growing up in Nigeria, you're going through a lot. Really. So I think that because of that, if I'm allowed to tell my own side of the story, and also we have to account for personal nuances.
Sure.
There is not every man that is an abuser.
Yes.
It's not every man that is all about subjugating women. And that's why it was before, as someone that I'm talking from perspective of someone that was active on Twitter. 2018, 2019, going into the COVID period, there was this wave around 2019, 2020 about rape. There were false rape accusations, and
it's interesting that nothing happened to the people who made
that that make those accusations. There are examples. This guy Ashakain, and it's he was accused of rape. The person that just accused him rather just posted on Twitter and just tagged him, and immediately the mob mentality, everybody just came for him, and then people started asking questions because. And probably one of those things that helped him was the fact that it was likable. So people would naturally, ask questions, and people asked questions. And luckily for him, it was lucky that there were details about the party that so-called that they said he assaulted the lady at the party, and then it turned out that he left the country. I think either the previous day or that day of the party, he left the country, so he wasn't even around.
Imagine if he did not have those receipts.
Exactly, and imagine if he didn't see anything, he just kept quiet, or they didn't give him the opportunity, because there are people like that didn't get the opportunity to see their own side of the story. And that's the danger with letting one narrative just go on unchallenged.
You said one Yoruba proverb.
That Agbejo eni konda agba oshekane.
So I would interpret that when you hear just one person's side of the story, you're a wicked judge.
Yeah, exactly.
Good.
So you need to listen to both sides. The other side might not really be what you want to hear. For instance, now when things happen, like this example I gave now about rape accusations, when it happens, there is a tendency to want to protect the woman, because in the past women don't get justice, and they've been the one they've been keeping them short for a long time, and now thanks to social media and all of that, they get to talk, and people can rally around them and really help to amplify the story. But while doing that, we also have to allow the other person to talk, because as a young man, my reality now is different from the reality of men in the past. My reality as a person now, as a man, is that I'm not necessarily enjoying any benefits on the ground that I'm a man. As a young person that grew up in Nigeria, all of us are Shinshige together. There is no specific gifts
Shege for males versus Shege for females.
Everybody, I went to school, I finished school, I'm looking for a job, you're looking for a job, we are all struggling together. I've not really benefited from the system to the point, yes, my ancestors might have, because of patriarchy and all of that, but right now in the current situation of things, there's a need for that personal nuances. When issues happen, my personal reality is not necessarily the societal reality. It's not, okay, men have been enjoying this in the past, but this is not what is going on here. What is happening now? And that's why in some societies, women can easily weaponize some of those measures that they have for them. That's why you see people get a divorce, and then the woman gets everything. Those are personal. You have to look at, okay, what applies to this person. Is this person, people can accuse you of being an abuser, and then all of a sudden your reputation is drained because they just didn't give room for there are men that are abusers. It's a very bad thing, and we need to protect women, but there's also a need to listen to the other person to, okay, is this person really guilty of this, or is it just because of the stereotype that we have about men in general?
So I do agree with that, right? But I also feel like we should ensure that there are structures in place. I feel like appropriate structures in place for when people come out to say that this is what they are going through. How do we handle that as a society, right? I know that there are still, we were having a conversation earlier about how that there are questions that people ask when it comes to say that, someone XYZ raped me and all that, and people ask. Sometimes some of these questions, of course, is to get the exact account of what happened, right? In some other ways, some of these questions can also be victim blaming, right? And we need to understand that fine line between them, because the moment someone wants to come out with something and then they know that, I'm going to be blamed for this, right? People they will just keep quiet. And while we are trying to subvert that, where we're trying to make sure that that's no longer the order of things, we have to ensure that the structures for allowing people to freely come and say this is what happened to me are there. And then when people come and want to abuse that to tarnish someone else's reputation or whatever, there have to be measures to make sure that they don't just go scot-free. Because it's a stain on someone's reputation. Right. And one thing about social media is people are very quick to judge, and it recently they were doing I listen, I judge not. Everybody was
judge you. This is what you are saying, we go to judge you.
right? Everybody's quick to do this mob police and all that and all that. So I feel like when we talk about when we talk about gender wars, when we talk about the danger of a single side story, right, we are emphasizing the importance that these conversations are important.
Yeah.
Right, these conversations are, because we are trying to go to an end goal. At the beginning we had spoken about how that, is there really an end to
To
this,
this here.
right? Such that we're not just having conversations for the sake of
I
arguing,
mean, just fight, endless
just
fights and
fighting,
no
right?
results.
Is
Mhm.
fruitless,
Yeah.
is baseless,
Yeah.
right? The end point of the conversation should be to see how can we help each
Yeah.
other,
How can this
right?
benefit
How
both
can this
genders,
benefit?
both
How
sides?
can we evolve what we have currently into ensuring that to a very large extent both
Yeah.
genders are benefiting, and you don't have one person, you know, enjoying at one extreme and the other
Mm.
person suffering at one extreme. And
Yeah.
what we spoke about earlier on about mindset,
Yeah.
I think that that's like really the key thing.
That's the basic thing. That's the major thing. Sometimes the mob can be right. Right. The fact that people say this thing about mob justice and mob justice being bad. Sometimes the mob can be right, but it all depends on the mentality, the mindset of the mob. Um, like you mentioned about asking the right questions. It's
Yeah.
okay to ask the right questions, but what is the mindset behind it? Why are you asking that question? Are you asking
What's the
just
intention?
what's
Are
the
you asking
intention?
just to fall to say it was you
You are the
who
one that
took
is no,
yourself
or
to
you
the
are just
wrong
trying to
place?
clarify the situation. Okay, what are the details? What are the facts? So that you make your judgment based on that. So, and the bottom line is the mentality, the mindset. Even if we have systemic measures, we have justice. If you get to court, you are probably going to get justice. But what happens when you will go to the police to report? Who is the person
Who
attending
is
to
the
you?
person attending
What
to
kind of mentality does this
you?
person have about women?
Right.
What kind of mentality does this person have about issues like this in general? We need to really, and that's why our conversations about gender equality, about resolving all of these things, have to be on the basis of what how do we come to a common ground that benefits everybody, that benefits
Everybody.
benefits both sides, not just that they just put forces and just
And just
everything is
use
just fight.
agility to
Exactly.
just
Everything is just fight.
honestly, because I'm like, if you have a closed mindset about it, right? If you have a fixed mindset about it, and you're not willing to learn, you're not willing to grow, you're not willing to have like, engaging conversations where
Yeah.
I'm hearing your side, you're hearing my side, we're not going to get
We're not going to get
anywhere.
anywhere.
We're
We
not
we
going
have
to
to
get
come to the
anywhere.
terms with the fact that what we currently have, the system we currently have, is imperfect.
Definitely.
We have to be willing to question that system. It is not to the point of we don't have to how will I put it now? It's not entirely bad. We don't have to throw the baby away with the bathwater,
I
right?
always say this,
Uh-huh.
like, let's not, like, we know some things are bad.
Bad, but it has I
There was a reason why some things were put
were
in
there,
some
yeah.
places.
Patriarchy, like I said earlier, it was not originally intended to us. And if you drill down and look at it, to the very it has some
To the
benefits.
nitty
It
gritty.
has some benefits that we can benefit from. There's some protection that comes with that system. That was why it was instituted in the first place. But now
It
that
has
we
to
are, it
evolve.
has to evolve. We cannot continue, and that cannot happen. We don't have that conversation from the cultural level, from the religious level. In because that's where those mentality come from. What people believe in their religion. That's how it has been
Definitely.
instituted in religion. And if you go down to the very bottom of it, you realize that in most of this religion is not exactly like Christianity, for instance. Now people would say that the Bible said, but if you go down and read the Bible, there's nowhere in the Bible where it was said that a man is above the woman, or all men are above all women.
As I would always say, study your Bible.
Study
Don't
your
let anybody
Bible.
popo you.
Really, because
Because
if you go down and check it, the Bible did not say that a man is above the woman. If anything, in the family structure, that was the instruction. If you check Genesis chapter 3, it was your husband will rule over you, and that's a family structure. That's a different conversation entirely. But for you as a man to now take that to imply that you are better than every woman. That's a stretch. The Bible did not say that.
That's a stretch.
It's a stretch because the Bible did not say that you are better than every woman. So that mentality
So
that
it's so interesting how you just
pick that and just think that I'm better than every woman.
Like, I always say that the audacity that some men have, I don't know where they get it.
No, it's I think it's the
Tell me your
upbringing
vendor.
that you think that because you've been raised. So from primary school, you see primary school students being told that, how did you allow a woman to beat you? How did you allow a woman to, like, how is a woman coming first position in your
we're
class?
talking about that earlier. It affects the man as much as it affects a woman, and many people don't see that.
Yeah. Like, and that's why you, as a man, you start busting your balls just to provide for the family, when you can see this woman as your partner and both of you work together. You don't have to be the sole provider that, alpha and the omega. You have to have everything. And if you're earning, and that's why some men would not want their women to work, their wife to work, but they think that the current society that we work with. I was talking to somebody recently, a person was talking about marriage, and I was like, what you earn currently, if you get married, if you're running a 2-income household, it pays you more than if you're earning alone.
Like, unless if you are like one of your $10 and
so if the current situation, the current economy, and that is why the system has to evolve to accommodate those things. The reason for that system that we were running before was because of the system that we had before.
And
but now the system has to evolve to accommodate the peculiarities of our current society.
Just not to overstretch this, but also to add that this would then also just feed into gender roles in the family, what is expected of each party. How, because if we are broadening the scope now in terms of, okay, patriarchy has to evolve, right? We are talking about how that things that used to be in terms of, the man had to be the sole provider, and then we've gotten to a point in society where we have both men and women actually taking the role of a provider. Right, then you talk of housekeeping, right? You talk of child rearing, right? You talk of things like that, and we need to have those conversations where both parties are actually involved, and it's not like I am helping you, right? Because it is your child.
Yes. Right. I think it's one of those things that our generation is, I think, doing better than the previous generation.
I would definitely say, and I love it. I love it whenever
and it's because those gender wars that we think are bad are some of the things that feed that conversation.
Whenever I'm on the street and I see a man like backing a child, I'm always
it's one of those, and it's one of those things that comes out of these conversations like this, when we talk about it and we're honest about it, that yes, this thing has to change. Yes, we cannot continue to see one gender as less than the other. We cannot continue to, and the other way around as well, that one gender cannot continue to see itself as as macho and has to carry all the responsibility. You can rest, you can admit each other's rest. You can admit the other person's strength and just embrace it and apply it to yours.
So we're rounding up here already, and it's time for what I like to call random questions. But for today, I want to be the one to give you the random question. You permit me?
No problem.
Yes, permitted me. So go ahead. Right, so random question for today is what's something, as someone from the male gender, you think men ought to know about women?
I think I mentioned something like that in our conversation earlier, and that's the fact that as a man, you should come to terms with the fact that you are not better than every woman.
Please, can you tell them?
You are not better than every woman. That is a reality. You might fight it as much as you want, but the fact is that you are not better than every woman. There might be some women that you're better than. It's the same way you're better than some women that you're also better than some men.
And some men are better than
some men are better than you. Some women are better than you. You cannot, there is no inherent magic that makes you better than every woman you meet. And so you cannot relate to women on that basis that I'm better than you. It's one of the problems that we have in society today, where men think that automatically, by one virtue of because you are a man, because you are born a man, then you are automatically better than every woman. It is not like that. There are women that if you get into a fight with them as a man, they will beat you. There is nothing you can do about it. If you get into a fight with a professional wrestler, a professional boxer, as a man, you will get beaten. If you get on the field with an athlete, a professional athlete, they will beat you. It's just normal. And it applies to everything. Your strength is somebody else's weakness. It's the same way
somebody else's weakness is your own
strength. So you have to acknowledge that you cannot continue to relate with women on the basis that I am better than you. Naturally, you see somebody, this might be classist, but you see somebody, a taxi driver, a male taxi driver, and then you see a woman in a Range Rover, and then you start treating her like you are better than her, or you think that she was successful because of she used her body or something. Nah, or is one rich man somewhere that is feeding her.
I hate it when I'm working for my money. I am doing. Can you see my screen?
Exactly, and then you think there is one man
and
somewhere.
There's somebody now come and tell me there is one man somewhere that is
there are women that are more
income.
successful
Can
than
you not do that?
That would always, and that would help you to when it comes to leadership positions, you would start seeing women as, okay, this person can be my leader. I can be in an office and my boss is a leader. It doesn't matter. The same thing that the woman would know. Some people would say women bosses are terrible. Women bosses are this and that. The same thing that your male boss will do and you would take. You now say, because she's a woman, she's not supposed to talk to you that way. No. She's your boss, she's your boss, she's better than you. And it's that mindset problem.
I just hope that is something that in the next coming years we can start to see that shift in the mindset.
I think we need to if it gets down to a personal level and we realize that this is the way it's supposed to be. When we start raising children as a young generation, it's something that would teach them from a young age.
That is actually that's my focus.
The solution.
I feel like the best way we can bring some of these changes starts from the household, starts from the child upbringing, starts from the values that we teach young children while they are growing up from the home, right? If you as a parent are able to understand how that my children are different, but but as much as I acknowledge their differences, I would also acknowledge the fact that those differences can be their strengths, and I'm not just going to discriminate them or just treat them or just say, "Yeah, boy, do this. Yeah, girl, do this." Right? It's earlier we were talking about cooking, right? And you're talking about how you start cooking from like age 10. Cooking is a vital skill for survival, and I don't know why people don't know it.
Segregate it and just because you are a girl, you have to be in the kitchen. No, it's just doesn't.
You've never lived alone before.
And it will help your interaction with others when you get out in the society. When those mentalities are corrected, it's not that you now get to NYC camp and then you now be telling people that you are not supposed to enter kitchen because you are a boy.
I still can't even believe that.
It's just those kind of mentality, because you think that we don't used to cook boys don't used to cook in our house, so because of that you're one mazi.
It's interesting that people always say the statement that we don't used to do this in our house. Just shows you the importance of what you do in your house, right? And how that people take that as how it should be done.
Exactly. So that is a mini society in itself. Is what the term is. This is how. So when you raise a child like that and they start seeing that, okay, I'm good, I'm a good person, I'm all of this, but I'm not better than
every other person.
It doesn't automatically, because I'm a guy, doesn't automatically make me better. And then as a lady too, you don't, because this problem is much more as a male problem. There are women that see themselves as less. They will apply for the same opportunities as men.
I was mentioning it earlier.
They will just.
We've had instances, right? In my experience, I've related women that they had everything in terms of the skill set, in terms of the resources, in terms of all you just have to show up for job interview, and they could not do because I don't think I'm good enough. Like someone literally said that.
And ironically, men don't grow up with that kind of mentality because somehow just felt
it's
them
such a beautiful and amazing thing from
that just we fed them from
a guy would meet just two requirements
and just feel I'm good. Right? For a guy to be intimidated by it's very far. But ladies get intimidated by that, and one of those things, it's just mentality. When from the young age, every child knows that you are not, because of your gender does not make you any less than anybody. You're just as good, you're just as qualified as anybody else.
Exactly. You're just as good, you're just as qualified as anybody else. And at this point, we're wrapping up the show today. Thank you so very much for tuning in. Thank you so very much if you listen this far. So what's your Twitter handle?
It's Tobi_TLS.
Okay, so please make sure you follow Tobi. You can also see it on the screen. If you're a Twitter person, follow Tobi on Twitter. And please make sure you follow us on Instagram. And if you've not subscribed, now is the time to click that button. Subscribe, please. Thank you. You had to please subscribe. All right, guys. Thank you. Till next time. Bye.